How are we going to avoid going the way of San Bernardino, which that's not going to happen, but bankruptcy, go with the B word, which is out there. When you hire a police officer, you're also hiring a pension. Police officers and firefighters retire earlier. It's the public safety rule, which is a good rule because it's a very stressful and dangerous job. So none of this is cost-free, and you got an increase in the trash collection fee. That was a pretty big deal to get that through the council. Now, at a certain point, how is the city going to pay for the cost of all these extra police officers, given the fiscal situation we're in right now?
I would argue that the reason why tourism has been up every year except for one, I think it was 2009, even in this recession, that the reason why businesses are coming here, the reason why when I brought 50 mayors here last year, everybody was, as much as I hear complaints from folks, I'll tell you, when people from other cities come here, they're just like, are you kidding me? There's a lot of great things happen in this town. I believe a lot of the investment, a lot of the tourism that's happening in this town is because we're safer. So I think remember, every homicide we save is about $1 million indirect cost associated with that. So from my vantage point, we save money for this investment. But I do want to speak to pensions. And this is where I'm not that popular with a lot of our folks. But I'm not in the popularity business. I got to make tough choices. You're right, we'll never get to that B situation. I don't even use the word. We'll never get there because we're going to make tough choices. We were looking at a $1.3 billion, according to the CAO 3 years ago, $1 billion structural deficit. We're down, we've saved over $1.1 billion. We're at $256 million structural deficit. We would have been at roughly 25% of the size of our general fund budget that was structurally deficient. We're now at less than 4%, about 4%. Having said that, going into the future, I'm going to start with civilians, but I think new employees we're going to have to tie our pensions to Social Security age. I'm going to be 60 in January. I'm going to live, God willing, if things go all right, until 78.
60 is not so bad.
No, it's not. It's good. The fact is, it's the size of the pensions and the age at which we retire is not sustainable going in the future. And that's true for fire and police too.
Are you going to take a ballot measure?
I am.
At least in fire has to be a ballot measure.
I have said to the city council that I will take a ballot measure if they don't support it.
Even for the civilian employees?
We're going to start with civilian. I'm not going to do police and fire right now. But ultimately, we're going to have to do that too. And it's not for current employees because you can't change it for them under the Constitution. For new employees, you're just going to have to. You can't retire at the ages that people are retiring and get the size of the pensions that you get when you're living that much longer. They were fashioned on all of us living 10, 12 years after we retired. Now we're living 25 and 30. And a number of us will get another career. It's just not sustainable going in the future.
Are you concerned, or should we be concerned, about the numbers we're reading under the prisoner realignment program, where the state, to my reading, is going to be sending prisoners to the counties, money to the counties, but not to the cities? That the cities will have to go to the counties to help with the impact of, what do they say, roughly 9,000 prisoners coming to LA County? Is that about right?
I'm very concerned. And let me share my record for a second. I'm not philosophically against realignment. We can't continue the prison building that we're doing in America today and in California. When I started out in 1994, we were roughly 73,000 prisoners in our state prisons. A couple of years ago, we were like 170,000. You can't keep on building prisons that way and ask yourself the question, why aren't we funding our universities and keeping our tuition down and investing in higher education in K through 12? There's been a direct, proportional relationship between the cost of prison building and what we pay for them and what we're not paying for higher education today. And I went to the UCs when they were still the standard in the world. So I'm not against realignment, neither is Chief Beck. We're just against realignment that doesn't really have any program to it and wants to do it on the cheap. They're not giving us the resources for it. And then when you give it all to the county that way and not understand that these police officers are going to have to deal every day with the ramifications of having people, that are in the county, and then because they're overcrowded, they get released early, and now we have a situation where added burden on us. So, got to have more money. It's got to have real programs to it. And it's got to be tied to rehabilitation. They don't rehabilitate in there anymore. You got to have rehabilitation in there because you can't bring these people out without preparing them for it, without investing in them. So, I love when they, certain media outlet loves to beat up on Charlie and I as if we're some Neanderthals on this issue. Both of us, we can support realignment. Give us resources, give us a program, make investments so that these people have a shot at not going back within, a few months.
Just so everybody knows what the realignment one, if not everybody knows that, is a policy coming out of the state of California. They're under a lot of pressure from the federal courts for overcrowding in the state prisons, is to start sending prisoners back to the counties. And for the first few years, they would give money to the counties to cover the cost.
Like a third of the money, almost a fourth, between a fourth and a third of the money that they were spending on the prisons.
Right.
It's not giving them the budget that they had before.
And it would not continue. That money would not continue permanently. But then you have the city of LA, which is a big part of the county, would not be getting any of those resources, but a number of those prisoners might be released further from the county.
The vast majority of the prisoners that are going to the county are coming back to the city. Yeah. The vast majority. I don't have the exact number. Chief Candidate's over there, if I could tell you, but it's a big number.
Okay, so while we're looking for things to worry about, let's consider terrorism a little bit, which is a big part of public safety. One of the great virtues of Los Angeles has been that it's been so low physically that there just aren't a lot of targets. We're getting bigger. The city's getting bigger. We're building bigger buildings. Are we becoming a terrorist target? And what's Homeland Security telling you? I know you've been talking to them. And how worried should we be about the ports and all the things that make us, the bigger a city we become, the more noticeable we become, do we become more at risk?
Well, first of all, and I'm not an expert on terrorism, but I'll tell you, I think we had about 247 officers when I became mayor. I know we have more than 600 now working counterterrorism. We do for a reason. Not me. I'm not the expert. The experts will tell you, after New York, we are the number two. We're the number two target of opportunity in the country. It's New York, LA, DC, Chicago. Those are the top. So we've been a top target of opportunity for a long time. Now, having said that, let me tell you what about counterterrorism. And part of why I hired my deputy mayor, Annie Decker, was because she had a counterterrorism background. When I ran for mayor, both in 2001, 2005, and 2009, I can't remember. And I did like 80-some town halls the first time I ran because nobody knew what it was. I needed to go step out there. How many did you go to? And I can tell you, I never got a question about terrorism. Not one. And then I get a call from Bill Bratton. I had just gotten elected mayor. It was about 11:45 or so. I was just getting out. And he says to me, Mayor, we've just discovered a cell in Torrance. They were involved in a series of robberies. They're a terrorist cell. Wanted you to know we didn't get them, but someone else got them, and blah, blah, blah. 3 hours later, I get a call about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, while I was there. Bill calls me up again, says, Mayor, there's been a bombing in the subway. So I remember terror cell, bombing in the subway. I'm thinking he's talking about our subway, and I said, what? That day when that happened, and it hit home to me just how awesome the responsibility is for all of us, and particularly the chief executive of this city, you know, to be thinking about terrorists. It's why we expanded the police. When Bill suggested that I expand the counterterrorism unit, we did. It's why we've got more bomb-sniffing dogs at the airport, more full-body scanners. We're one of the first airports to get the people-sniffing dogs as well. We are absolutely, our threat detection center at the port is among the most advanced in the country. The LA RICS was the first of its kind. It's a joint terrorism infusion center. You know, our Project Archangel started in LA. It's gone around the country. I take this very seriously because it's my job. And I hope nothing ever happens here, either on my watch or on somebody else's. But I think most people believe that this will, you know, these people are certainly operating, you know, all over the country, including here, and you know it's very possible. So we just got to stay vigilant, and that's why we developed the iWatch program here. You know, that, and they call it nationally "Say Something, See Something, Say Something." But iWatch started here. You know, we basically iWatch is like a neighborhood watch for terrorism. You know, it says if you see something funny, if you see things that don't make sense to you, just report it. Activity, not people. Not about people. So it's not. So, you know, look, we take it seriously, and we've got really great people. But, you know, Chief Downing is just absolutely committed, doing a great job, and we're going to continue to take it seriously because that's what you have to do in a city like that.
Can I go a different path here?
Absolutely, go any path you want.
Partly because I know we have some students here, and some of them are thinking about politics as a career, and some of the things that happen to you in politics. So this is a politics question. It has nothing to do with public safety. Hope you don't mind.
That's
Back in 2008, it was a very exciting election, and you supported Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, in a very, very close race with Barack Obama, was defeated for the Democratic nomination. Fast forward 4 years, you're a close confidant of President Obama. You're playing a major role in the Democratic Party nationally. To me, that's a case study in how one can work one's way back into a trusting situation when one was on the other side of a very, very serious political battle in which you picked, at that time, the side you believed in. How did you go from being in the Hillary Clinton camp at that time to, it seemed to me, slowly evolving this relationship with President Obama, so that people could know how politics changes in the course of your life?
well, one, it was never personal. I was for it. Hillary Clinton, I wasn't against President Obama, or at that time, Senator Obama. I admired him. I mean, everybody did. They couldn't help but admire his eloquence and his audacity and his appeal to hope. And so, once it was over, it was over. I immediately got behind him, and without any trepidation or now, you know, you said it took some time to get some trust, but
That might have been over for you said.
but 5 months later, he named me to his transition economic team. I was Governor Granholm and myself are the only 2 elected officials, and she was with him. So, you know, we've been, actually, it wasn't slow. We actually almost, from the beginning, I got behind his, first his campaign and then his presidency.
Maybe it's because I'm from New Jersey. There's a part of me that would always make somebody wait in the wilderness for a while if they were on the other side. Just for the heck of it, just to make it hurt a lot. And then eventually, because otherwise, what lesson do you give that there's no cost of being on the other side? But they,
I'll tell you something. That's one view of the world. When I lost the mayor's race, I was respectful of all the people that were with my opponent. When I won, and they were now on the other end, I embraced them. I'm a big believer in, the big tent.
You didn't spend enough time in New Jersey.
I think public service and politics is about addition and multiplication, not subtraction and division. So I'm always reaching out and bringing people in. I think that's what the president did too.
Well, let me ask
not just with me, by the way.
Well, let me ask you another politics question, which is, the Latino vote became extremely important in this election. And in the summer of last year, it started to look like the Obama administration had lost a lot of the enthusiasm that they had originally had from Latino voters, which was very significant. African-American candidate drawing such enthusiasm from Latino voters. Then they made the decision to change their policy a bit. Now the Republican Party seems to be unable to win Latino support. From what you've seen, and looking ahead, is there a way that Republicans can go from where they are now with Latino voters? And if so, what do they have to do to become competitive with Latino voters now?
They have to be a mainstream party. When you call for the South deportation of 11 million people, dividing families, those 11 million people have 5 million citizen children. When you say you're for family values and are willing to just send them all back, force them to leave, make conditions so bad for them that they just all leave, and now more people are leaving than coming in. When you say that the DREAM Act is a handout to serve in the military, 70% of America thinks if you go to the military, you go to college, and you lived here most of your life, we got to give you a pathway. 70%. So they got to be part of the mainstream. I think if they're part of the mainstream, look, I don't think America is that partisan Democrat or partisan Republican. I think they're losing Latinos, African Americans, women, because they're going so far out of the mainstream. And when this spring, they were talking about contraception, and what I've said when I speak around the country, they don't say that a man's health care plan shouldn't cover a vasectomy, or that a man can't buy a condom. They're saying that women can have reproductive freedom and to be able to have their health care pay for it. I mean, they're going so far out. So yeah, they can come back. I think I've said on immigration, let's get it on the campaign. Democrats and Republicans come together, put a plan to secure our borders, provide a pathway for citizenship, support the DREAM Act, and earn legalization. You could say they got to learn English. You could say they get at the end of the line. You could say all the things that when you put them together, again, Pew study that they've done around the country, when people know what's in it, almost 70%, 65% for the comprehensive immigration overall, 65% of America says, yeah, that sounds reasonable. So I think they got to get out of the mainstream. I mean, out of the margins into the mainstream, and then they'll compete.
Okay. 2 or 3 of the cards that came in were about college tuition. I imagine that's a concern for a lot of people in this room. You know that the Cal State system used to be state-supported with some tuition. Now tuition is carrying the majority over state-supported. The governor has a measure on the ballot. There's a competing measure or two on the ballot in November. It's leading by a small amount, but the underlying thing seems to be people's suspicion of government. Can you trust the state government with this money? Do you think the governor's measure can pass? I have to tell you, it would have pretty big consequences for Cal State if it didn't. What would it take for the voters to feel comfortable going along with that at this point? It's leading narrowly.
I'm not a pundit, so I can't tell you if I know it'll pass. I I do believe that there is a mood out there that is resistant to tax increases. I do support it, and I support it very strongly. We can't keep on cutting like this. You know, there are 36 million people in California. Budget's about 92 billion. There are 18 million people in New York, and they have a $142 billion budget. We can't keep on eviscerating the safety net. When you invest in the CSUs, the community colleges, the UCs, you're investing in the future. We're going to be 1 million down in the number of college graduates in 2025 because we're not investing in education, because we have an achievement gap. I think it's an abomination that we're 47th in per pupil spending for K-12, and we will be dead last. We will be lower than, we will be the 50th state, lower than Mississippi. So what I would say to that electorate, you know, we've got to start making investments again. We can't let this happen where you're pricing working people and the middle class out of a college education. That's just the wrong way to go. It's a mistake. And all of those naysayers that are against this tax hike really don't have a clue. Now, I'll add this. I think on that end, on the left, what I would say to them, we do have to tie money to success. And we do have to not just tinker around the tax system. The tax system is broken overall. Prop 13, when it was passed, commercial properties were paying 60% of the property tax. Homeowners were paying 40. Today, homeowners are paying 60, commercials paying 40, because commercial can, through these complicated REITs, you know, these funds, they can sell property again and again and not get reevaluated, different than homeowners. So we got to fix the broken tax system, and then we got to connect money to results. You know, there's no problem with that. But so I do support it, and you know, I think it's an abomination what's happening on kids. You know, they can't get the classes they need. It takes them 6 years to graduate because, you know, they have to go to work. They're working, you know, which is fine. We all work, but you know, I mean, you got to work with the escalating cost of, you know, they have to work full time, and that just makes it very, very difficult.
I hate to raise the question again. We've got a birthday coming. We've got a birthday coming up in January. Yeah, I know it's already been brought up, and I hate to bring it up again. But when you turn 60, you give a lot of thought to the next stage of what you're going to do. And everybody's talked about a lot of different things you might do. People have talked about you running for governor. They've talked about you going into the cabinet if the president is reelected, going into exile if the president is not reelected. That's an alternative, I guess. Other jobs, maybe becoming a college professor, you know, teaching classes to our students. Any of these things appeal to you at this point?
I'll definitely affiliate. I mean, not definitely. I can't tell you I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know this. I want to focus on this job. I want to finish strong. We're going to work till 11:59 and 59 seconds on June 30th. And then we're going to pass the baton to whoever the people of this town elect mayor. I'm going to support that person, and I am, for the rest of my life, going to promote this town. I was born here. My mother was born here. My grandpa got here 100 years ago in 1903. I believe in LA. So what do? I'll tell you what I want to do. You know, I still haven't figured out exactly what I do. I really believe that after being majority whip in my first 3 weeks in office, majority leader 2 years later, and speaker 3 years later. Everybody says speaker 4 years. I was elected in November and didn't start serving until January. I got elected 3 years after I came to the legislature. Speaker of the Assembly, ran that crazy, audacious run in 2001. council member for 2 years, now 7 years as mayor, 8 years by the time it's over. I think it's time for reflection. I really believe that. I think that's the best thing I could do. Is that what I end up doing? I can't tell you that right now because I don't know. But I think the best thing for me to do is to reflect. What do I want to reflect on? I think the partisanship is killing this country. I think the debates between the left and the right and the polarization that comes with it has caused us to just stand still. And I want to figure out how to do it. So, will I affiliate with a university? Probably a university or a think tank. I want to be around really smart people like you. Well, who've got big ideas and help us think through this stuff. Probably speak around the country because I get asked a lot more than I accept. And then, obviously I have to eat, so figure out how that works. So, that's what I want to do. I'm not interested in going to Washington right now, so I don't see myself as accepting the cabinet position if it was offered. You have to be always respectful to the president asking you to do anything, but it's just not. I think reflection and really thinking through how we fix these broken problems. So that says this. If I want to do that, that says a couple things. It's not just that I want to do it theoretically. It means that I probably want to come back in some permutation. I think you could guess that. But I think some time to just reflect after acting on the world so much would be time well spent.
Do you think you could be a cold-hearted pundit about yourself? I'm going to give you an exercise. Pretend you're a pundit, one of those people, I don't know, those people who appear on the radio and TV and talk about things all the time. And you were saying, what's your greatest strength as a mayor and what's your greatest weakness as a mayor? Can you stand outside yourself and look back and say what those two things have been? Kind of an unfair question to ask a mayor, but
no, I think a strength, I don't know if it's my greatest strength, I think a strength has become, most of us who run for public office want to be loved and want to be popular, let's be honest. I mean, you want to be popular, or you used to. I'm over that. And that's a strength. I don't want to be popular. I joke, at Trader Joe's a couple of months ago, a guy walks up to me and started spewing profanity and called me every name in the book. And I actually thought it was refreshing, because when you're married, that's what people do. And I don't need to want to bother every constant, but that's become a strength. I don't know if it's the best strength. I think a weakness, I think that I sometimes undermine myself by wanting to set really high goals.